Welcome to Chaotic Riffs Magazine. We can be found on the web at www.chaoticriffs.com. My name is Jason JROCK Houston, and I'm happy once again to be having a chance to talk to my good friend Scott Mcclellan. Scott is in many, many different bands. We're going to be talking about that today. Now, Scott, just last week I was interviewing your singer and bandmate Brian Trotch from the band Vante, and I didn't know until I was talking to Brian that you were in the band. So talk about, because last time I talked to you, we were talking about your band Breed of Aggression. We'll get into that too during this interview, but let's talk about Vante and how you first hooked up with those guys.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, it basically started with Brian and I, met through some mutual friends, and we started talking, and I had a bunch of material written. I was in another project at the time called Devil Land.
Wow.
And it was Dave Shankle and all that stuff from Manowar. And I was doing that with another singer named Sean Jacks. And then, some things started working out real funky with the label I wasn't comfortable with. So, that being said, I moved on from that and, kind of got back into writing my solo material. And ran into Brian, and we tried to gel, and I think he mentioned it in the interview he was on with.
Yeah.
And we started writing more metal stuff, and it wasn't really, gelling the way we thought it would.
Yeah.
And I loved his voice, though, because I thought he was a very soulful vocalist. And I'm like, maybe we're just trying to be too heavy for the style of singer. He's not in that wheelhouse anymore, like he used to be back in the day.
Yeah.
And, man, he's got a really good bluesy, soulful voice, though. I'm like, well, maybe if we focus more towards, like a Stone Temple Pilots type thing, even like a little bit of Alice in Chains.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and then we started like focusing on that, and it just started gelling. It started working. We did one song.
Wow.
That was we did Why Is It So Cold?
Wow. Yeah.
It worked out.
Yeah. Now let me ask you, Scott, not to go off topic, but you mentioned that you had a project with David Shankle, and he's a real great guitar player in his own right. Was that the first time you'd been in a band with another guitar player?
No, I've actually done the two guitar player thing before. A lot of times when I did two guitar player things, it was stuff that I was writing, and unfortunately I had to do both parts.
Yeah.
And then I'd have to go perform it live and then show a guy this is what I was doing, kind of thing. And I've done the two guitar player thing in the past, and I do like the choices you have with two players.
Yeah.
Because you can do a lot of different things, like, more Judas Priest type.
Yeah.
And, I like the dual lead thing. I like the harmonies. I missed that. So, having that, again, was kind of fun.
All my favorite bands are two guitar bands. You're right about that. Now, let me ask you, again, not to get off topic, but what was it like working with a guitar player like Shankle? He was with Manowar. He's done all kinds of stuff over years. He's a great player in his own right.
Oh yeah. Dave's an extremely fast guitar player, man. He's probably one of the faster ones out there. He has his style. He's developed that. He's worked on it for years. Nothing against Dave. It's just it just didn't work out.
Yeah.
I went my way, he went his, and he went, he's doing his thing.
I think you both doing what you should be doing, if you know what I mean. And it's interesting talking about having just interviewed your bandmate Brian. After I posted the interview I did with Brian, I don't know if it was you or Brian, but somebody was posting about the fact that you guys have this new video and single out, and that it's just doing great on the charts. I think it's number 2 most added on the Billboard mainstream rock chart, and you guys are beating at. Your song's higher than like Def Leppard or Red Hot Chili Peppers and Shinedown.
I found that rather shocking myself.
Yeah, what an accomplishment, huh?
yeah. My manager reached out to me and he goes, "Hey, did you see your email?" I'm like, "No, I did not." And I kind of opened it up and I'm like, "Oh, that's kind of cool." It's like, I'm very humble about these things because. If people really enjoy what we're putting out there, and I never take full credit for anything.
The Sunrise, great. I was watching the video today, prepping for talking to you, and both the song and the video I think are pretty cool. And let's also talk about not just you and Brian, but you guys got some great musicians involved with this band. Chris Moore, I got to tell you, great drummer. I know he's done stuff with George Lynch, and I got to tell you, I live in Los Angeles, and a number of years ago, I seen Chris playing drums. I think he's still playing with them. he's in a part of a great Smashing Pumpkins tribute band I've seen him play with.
Oh yeah. Well, he also played in a Rush tribute band called Why Not for a time.
Okay.
And he's got a video out there of him doing YYZ by Rush. And
I had to check
that guy, you just give him the sticks, man. He'll do whatever you want him to do, man.
As far as musicians, just great musicians, great drummers. He's I think one of those musicians finally kind of starting to get recognized. You know, he's been kind of as far as great drummers, like best kept secret, I think, for a number of years.
Oh, he's definitely that. He actually, he's the kind of guy that, like a band like what was the band, Autograph?
Oh, yeah.
And they needed a drummer, and they called him up, and he went out there and did the deed. He went and played a show with them, and the guy, he did like a show with that, what was that play about the big movie, about the,
Rock of Ages?
Yeah, he did that too.
Wow.
So, Chris is a well-rounded musician, man. You can put him in anything professional, and he's going to be just fine.
And see what that's what makes a band. Again, I listening to the two singles and that it's just great music. And I think even more important than the songs being great to listen to. I think everybody in this band brings something to the table, and it's not just that you got a great looking lead singer, but everybody in the band. You yourself and all these guys, it just really kind of together. You guys are really something special, and just kind of creates great music.
Yeah, what I'm afraid, when you get these special projects with these kind of players together, sometimes they just burn out. They go away, and I kind of don't want that to happen. I think we're already working on album 2.
That's what he was saying. And now, have you guys played out live much, or is that something on the horizon?
That's in the works. We're discussing those things, and of course, it would have to work out for everyone's schedules.
Yeah,
everybody's busy. Bless their hearts, man. They all work so hard. Everybody that's played on this thing has just been extreme. I am very humbled to have played with such great players. They're all very prolific artists.
Yeah, the world's not what it used to be, where bands go on the road for 2-3 years straight, at a time. So there is that, and even if you guys were to do like a one-off show here and there every now and then, I think the fact that you're with the new single, what is it, the Rise?
Watch the Sunrise.
Watch the Sunrise. The fact that it's number 2 on Billboard. For a band of your guys' stature that's just kind of up and coming, that's amazing to me. And especially and even a band like Def Leppard, you guys kind of being higher up on the charts when they just came out with a new album, and you say, oh yeah, well Def Leppard, they're not what they used to be. I got the new album, it's pretty good, and I heard that album. Even the latest Def Leppard album went number 1. So what I'm saying is, it is possible for that to happen.
Yeah, apparently it is. All those bands that were like Red Hot Chili Peppers, all of them. I'm like, oh my God, these guys are all great.
Yeah.
And just that was very. Again, I'd like to use the term humbling. It's humbling to me that. These are guys I grew up jamming to.
Oh, sure.
From and being influenced by.
And Scott. Even people say, number 2, but number 2, I think that's quite an accomplishment too. Again, you're not a band that's been around for 15, 20 years. This just your guys' debut, so that's pretty good.
Well, God, the album's not even out until and that's just like singles. So we got a whole 14-song album coming.
And do you have a release date for that, or projected?
It's the 17th. I can't remember. Is this 17th or the next 17th?
June 17th tomorrow. Maybe that's it.
Yeah, I think it is dropping tomorrow. But which is really cool, because there's a lot of songs on there that are. This album goes from one extreme to another, and not only that, we have a lot of people involved in the writing part of it.
Oh yeah.
I put together a lot of the riffs. I kind of did a lot of arrangements, and I handed over to Brian. Of course, he makes it work for his vocals. Yeah. And then you get Chris involved. He's doing his drum parts, and then you got Jeff Tatora, who's another outstanding drummer, by the way.
Yeah.
That guy, I'm telling you, it's like John Bonham smoked a crack pipe, man.
Wow.
Dude, the guy is just faster than hell, but he hits like a damn car when he hits his drums, man. It's just like insane, man. It's like a cannon went off.
Yeah.
So we got some songs that almost like is influenced by Korn. Yeah. And then you hear some stuff influenced by Alice in Chains. So the album's like all over the map.
Yeah, see, that's what I was telling Brian that I think is cool. The 2 songs that I've heard so far, I mean, just basing it on the two songs, I'm like, they're each so different that I think it's going to be hard to pigeonhole you guys. I mean, you got elements of maybe grunge, alternative, metal, a little hard rock, a little bit of everything, and I haven't even heard the other tunes on the album, but that's kind of the feeling I get from that.
Well, thank you for that, because I think that's kind of what we aim for, in a sense. We didn't want to get that pigeonhole thing going on, because, I mean, sometimes bands will do that, and it's like they sound a certain way.
Yeah.
And that's cool, man, but, I think that our minds are, at least the gentleman I work with in this thing, we all just said, hey, let's just write what feels good, and if we like the song, we work it.
And I think what's cool about being in that position is, you're not a band like, let's say, Bon Jovi's been around, over 20 years, where there's that called box where, maybe when John writes a song, he's got a certain expectation of, oh, this is what Bon Jovi has to sound like. Whereas you guys are kind of, being your debut album, you're kind of creating your sound.
Yeah, we're creating our sound, and at the same time, what I fear most, and this does happen to a lot of bands, just like you described, we got that one hit song, and now we got to start sounding like that.
Yeah.
No, you don't. You don't have to do that. Actually, to me, that can ruin a band rather than help the band.
Oh, yeah.
You need to just keep your options open and try something new. And what I've seen some bands do, and I'm not going to even name any other players. I just never do. I've seen some great bands come out with like their first album, and it's phenomenal.
Wow.
And then they'll come out with their second album, and they try to go real mellow or something. And you're like, what were you thinking?
I mean, I'll name one that comes to my mind, and I happen to love the band, but I'm just talking like commercial-wise, as far as what the album sold. Like, if you remember when Bolt Boys came out, I mean, they were the second coming of Van Halen. I mean, everybody was buying that debut album, but by the second album, nobody was talking about them anymore. I don't know why.
Well, they had a lot of inside issues, unfortunately. After all you got to do is look at the internet.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean,
and that's the thing, because they really had something,
Yeah, and I got to tell you, as far as songwriting and guitar playing, Scott, you're one of the guys I've been noticing the last few years. You're really coming up, and another album that you're very involved with for writing, of course, is the Tony Martin solo album, Thorns, that just came out this year. And I'll tell you, I love Tony when he's in Black Sabbath and all that, but I tell you, I think he's finally getting that much deserved love that he's always should. He's very much always been underrated as a singer, and I think he's finally getting the attention and recognition he deserves. And you're a big part of that album, not just your guitar playing, but your songwriting.
Oh yeah. And Tony, he wrote like 3 of the songs, and someone's with his son Joe, which is, he's a great guitar player himself.
Yeah.
And then we had Danny Needham from Venom on drum.
Wow.
Which is another outstanding drummer, and and then we had a couple different bass players on that album.
Now I know Greg Smith from Rainbow and Ted Nugent.
Yeah, dude. And Greg's a super nice guy, and and then we also had Magnus Rosson from Hammerfall. And
Pamela Moore, I know, did some guest vocals on the title track. Now, were you and these other musicians, were you all in the same studio, or did everybody do their part separately?
Well, it was a little bit of that, and then basically I had to go to England. I had to go record my guitar parts with Tony.
How cool is that?
And, so I was in there, and another beautiful thing that happened, and I didn't even realize this at the time. That's how naive I am. And so basically I went in the studio, and then there's a guy named Baz Bayless from, I was over in Warwick, England, and out on a farm in a beautiful studio it was just something like Zeppelin would do, And I'm like, man, this is the real deal. And I was just sucking in the moment, and there was a horse there, and I was petting the horse, and I'm just like, this is a trip. And so it was like in a farmhouse converted to a studio.
Oh, wow.
Gospel Oak Studios. And then there's another gentleman there, Mike, my acoustic for the song Thorns.
Okay.
And this is Mike. And I'm like, well, Mike. And all of a sudden they said Mike Exeter. I'm like, well, what's he done? So I kind of get my phone, of course, as we're leaving there. And I'm reading through, and I'm like, oh my God, Mike Exeter? This guy's produced Judas Priest, Redeemer of Souls.
Oh,
he's
wow.
worked with Black Sabbath. He's 13. He's done everything. And I'm like, this guy was just in the same room working with me, bringing me tea.
Wow.
And I'm like, how humbling was that? I'm just like, man, what a trip.
Yeah, yeah. And I know Tony's put out other solos, but I think this has been the most successful one. And I think a big part of that, which I know you're also involved with, is Dark Star Records. They promote the hell out of their artists, and I think they really did a great job, especially promoting his.
Well, Tony, the cool thing about Tony, man, is like when I met Tony, it was years back, and then when I sent him the song, the first song we actually wrote was "As the World Burns."
Oh wow!
And and I had this song, and I said, I'm looking for, and I didn't even know who he was. This is going to make you laugh.
Wow!
I didn't even know who Tony was. They said he got a bald guy with this weird designs on his head, this goatee and glasses, and I'm like, singer in England, and I'm like, what the hell? And it's like, I think like even on MySpace at the point. Yeah. And so I looked down and I click and I sent him a message. I'm like, hey, dude, I'm looking for a singer. So he goes, well, send it over, mate. And I'm like, all right.
Wow. So
I sent it over there. 3 days later, I get that song back with those pipes on it. And I'm like, wow. I'm like, this ain't good. This is like real good. So next thing you know, I'm listening to the song and I start reading his biography. I'm like, yeah, Tony said, I go, did I just record with the guy in Black Sabbath?
Yeah, he was a lot of the albums in the 80s, but I tell you, I mean, you listen to that stuff now and it really holds up. It's just, I mean, when you're constantly being compared to Ozzy and, Dio, I mean, that'll kind of do it, but...
Well, we discussed doing, calling it Martin Mcclellan.
Uh-huh.
And I told him, I go, I don't think that would do it justice. I really was nobody at all at the time. And, I'm like, I think that we just need to call it Tony Martin, man.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, people know Tony Martin, and you know what's amazing about that is, I mean, I know he's worked with other guitar players since, the last thing he did with Sabbath, but I think really you're the first guitar player that he's worked with, Scott, maybe since Tony Iommi, that's kind of been able to fill those big shoes, Iommi.
I probably sent him about 60, 70 songs already for the other stuff we're doing, so I write a lot. And that's just a normal thing for me.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable. It makes me, it's like like some people go smoke a cigar on their porch.
Yeah.
That's me in the studio playing my guitar, writing a song.
And it seems like that you can kind of write for whatever the job is, if you know what I mean. You can write for Vante, you could write for Tony Martin, or somebody else wants to work with you. Yeah, I can do that. I can make it work for your voice or whatever.
Oh, yeah. And then I did that. Actually, when I met Susie from Breed of Aggression, she was introduced to me through Ari. And, he's played with some pretty amazing, Ari Mahabalis, he's played with many people.
Wow.
Dystrophy, and, God, I think he even played with, what's that girl singer that does the crazy, OTEP.
Oh, okay.
He's played with her. He was a guitar player for her. I mean, great guitarist, man.
Wow.
And great singer, too. I mean, the guy, and I asked him to sing on this album.
Yeah. And,
he goes, I know this girl.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, that just kind of happened, man. And so she sent me the first song, and I'm like, man, this girl's got some serious pipes.
Yeah.
And I didn't like girl singers, mind you. She changed my mind.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, you kind of just got to be able to go with it and kind of, I'll listen to what she can do, at least.
No, I mean, you got to be open-minded when you're listening to other folks, and I'm like, I think I can work with this. And then I sent her a bunch of more songs. She started writing. We did an 8-song album. And we're already talking about doing another one for Breed of Aggression. We're also, I got a lot of work.
Yeah, you're a guy that...
you can tell. But... and it's all good stuff because all the people I work with are all absolutely wonderful. Susie's wonderful.
Yeah.
I mean, Tony's like my big brother. I'd do anything in the world for that man.
And I love the story where you said you had no idea that he was the former singer of Black Sabbath. I mean, that's kind of interesting because it seems like you guys have a great chemistry, and maybe that had a lot to do with it, not knowing anything about who he was or his background. Maybe you would have been more...
I come from a Pantera school, man, because I was in a Pantera.
Yeah, you're telling me that. Yeah.
Back then when all that was going on, I was doing that. So I just didn't really pay attention to the Sabbath thing. I always loved Sabbath. Do not get me wrong.
Oh no, I get you, but it's kind of interesting that you had no idea. I mean, some people honestly didn't, because like I said, when you were the guy that kind of came after Ozzy and Dio, you remain kind of underrated like he did, but
Well, what was ironic is when I actually listened to him and started talking to him, all of a sudden I started going through his album catalog. Yeah. And I'm like, wait a minute. I own Cross Purposes at the time.
That's the guy. Yeah, that's the guy.
And then I realized, the song Headless Cross, I'm like, wait, I know this guy now.
Yeah. And so...
I've heard this before, and so it just all clicked, and I'm like, man, this is some really good shit.
And have you guys got any opportunity to like do any live shows to support Thorns yet, or?
Well, there's talk.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure I'm supposed to share a lot of that yet, but
but okay, that's what I guess was asking, that you're at least talking about it.
Yeah, we are discussing a small tour, and it might be overseas. But that's just something that I don't like to share. I mean,
I got you.
Not rude, but I got to be careful how I think, because he might have different plans. Tony likes to, he manages a lot of his own affairs, which is really smart.
Yeah.
And basically, I respect his privacy, and and I have to.
No, again, I understand that. I mean, we're not trying to get you to say anything you're not supposed to. I'm just trying.
No, I know you're not. I mean, hey, these are interview questions, and this is what you do.
Yeah.
It's all good.
And we respect that. We respect that. I'll just say this, but have you ever had any chance? I would assume you've had to at least like rehearse or practice or play or jam to any of the Sabbath stuff that he was on.
Actually, I goofed around with some of that stuff. I mean, actually, I did some remakes, and that's going to come out on another album with some of the Dio material. I actually did Children of the Sea, and I did Nano Knights.
Wow.
And I was thinking about doing Mob Rules too. I got kind of a somewhat rough draft of that, and I got Chris Moore on that stuff too, by the way.
And I'm assuming the fact that you're covering these songs, you must have been a huge Ronnie fan, like a lot of people.
Oh, and I like the Heaven and Hell. I remember the first day I woke up and I heard that song, Lady Evil, right on the radio right when they came out with the new singer, because of course everybody anticipated what's the new singer going to sound like.
Yeah.
And I remember waking up to that going, man, this guy's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's just a really good album. I mean, Heaven and Hell, to me, topples probably any of the Ozzy albums. That's just my opinion.
No, well, I'm in agreement there. I'll tell you. Funny story about like Nano Knights. That's probably my favorite Ronnie era song. I mean, just the fact, first time I heard Sabbath with Ronnie was that song on the radio. So it's got a special place in my heart,
Absolutely. And, just the whole album in general.
We
played another band where we played a lot of that material. And, back when I was younger, of course, I was in my teens.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. And, and then I remember when, of course, when Ozzy came out solo, he was absolutely phenomenal, too.
But you know why, Scott, you know why that is. I mean, one thing a lot of people don't realize, because it's Ozzy Osbourne band, so he gets songwriting credit on everything, but a lot of the guys in his solo band, they're great songwriters, that's why.
Oh, yeah, and I've done the research on that. I mean, Randy Rhoads, of course, and then you got, and the bass player. I mean,
Bob Daisy. Yeah, and I heard Randy Rhoads actually really kind of was the first person in Ozzy's life to actually sit down and teach him how to write a song, because a lot of people don't realize that on those early Ozzy albums that he did with Sabbath, Geezer Butler wrote all the lyrics, and they just kind of split the songwriting credit. But Geezer said once Ronnie joined, hey, when you got a guy like that writes like he did, I no longer needed to write.
And I'll tell you one thing, that's another thing about Tony I'd like to share, is his lyric writing is just amazing.
Yeah.
He's another one. He's just got that built into him. And he takes a long time to write a song, but I'll tell you what, it's worth the wait, because he tells a story and he means what he's saying. He's telling a very good story. And if you listen to Thorns, I mean, you can hear the stories in the songs.
Oh yeah, what impressed me the most about the album as a whole is I think maybe this is the first time in Tony's career where he's been able to go in the studio and kind of been allowed to just kind of do what he wants. Obviously, it's a Tony Martin solo album, so he can do that. But whereas in Sabbath, he's got a record label, he's got maybe Iommi kind of guiding him what direction to go. And I think it's the first time that he's really been able to do that. And what I will say about the album as a whole, I love it from top to bottom. There's not one filler track on there. It's all good.
Oh man, that's good. That's good to hear. And I'm sure that'll make him happy, because he'll probably hear this eventually.
Well, we hope he does. And anything else you're currently working on, Scott? Because one thing I want to talk about before we let you go is last time I interviewed you, we were talking about Breed of Aggression, and you kind of told us what you're working on with that. But you've got also a solo album that's up on YouTube. Talk a little bit about that so people can check it out.
Oh, the solo album?
Yeah.
That was called Brutal Intentions. I remember I wrote a lot of that material off and on through the years. And I had a lot of crazy anger and issues back then. And I put that out, and my manager, and the label's like, this is some really good heavy metal material, dude. You have a killer metal voice. And I go, I don't don't think I sing worth a crap.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
You made it work, though. You know,
it's my voice for that stuff, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, they seem to like want more. And one of our fans actually got my album, and he goes, "Dude, this is the best material I've done yet." And I just thought that was funny because I think that the other bands are great, you know. And but just everybody's got their different opinions of what they enjoy, and that stuff's pretty brutal. It's heavy, you know. And I got a second album that's pretty well in the pocket. It's right now. It's in the pocket, ready to go.
And when might that come out? Any idea? I mean, is everything recorded, just waiting for release?
Yeah, it's pretty much ready. I mean, so basically, I actually wrote a couple more because I want to be able to kind of pick and choose the best ones. I like keeping in my solo albums about 10 songs.
And how would you compare the two solo albums? I mean, the new one that you're getting ready to release, is it a lot like the old one, or like are you doing the vocals?
It's similar to the old one, but it's like, you know, I'm trying to focus more on, you know, singing to where you can actually hear, like, you know, a little more melody in the vocal rather than me just being so screamy and crazy, you know. I actually sing a little more and try to tell a story a little better. And I just did that by, you know, working with people like, of course, Tony and
Brian.
You know, and then Brian. I mean, Brian's a great vocalist, by the way.
No doubt, yeah.
I mean, Brian comes from a pretty big background of some, you know, many bands. And, you know, Cyclone Temple was a very big album in the metal days. I mean, when I've seen some of my favorite players, they're like worshiping this album. And I'm like, you know, guys that I actually look up to. And they're like, this album was like God, you know. And of course, Greg Fulton, the guitar player, he's no spring chicken. That guy's awesome.
Wow. And you know, you seem a little bit, when talking about your solo albums, like a little more critical, and it makes sense since you're primarily a guitar player maybe, but you're a little more critical of your own voice. So I was curious, when you do these solo albums and you're writing kind of, you know, for your own vocal style, is that any different than writing a song for Tony Martin or Brian?
Does it differ?
Well, I mean, you know, like maybe you know kind of what kind of singer Brian is, and so when you're writing the song, maybe you're writing it for, you know, his style, the way he is.
Yeah, in a sense. I mean, because Brian and I actually found a formula that works for us.
Yeah.
And so it is a different feeling when I'm doing that. Like, say for Tony, I write one way. Yeah. And then sometimes Tony's just like, do what you do. Don't focus on one thing. Yeah. And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, you might just pick the heaviest damn song I did. Yeah. You know, and it blew my mind when he picked As the World Burns, because I did not expect that. And I mean, when I first wrote it, it almost sounded like death metal with double bass, man. It was insane. Yeah, I think that may be why him or the label chose it, because it's kind of got a metal twist to it. And then I think for people that are fans of what he does, that's probably maybe the most kind of metal-like. And I tell you, I don't have the album in front of me, but I think it's the last track on Thorns. It's kind of the most different sounding track. It's almost kind of like a rap, where he's rapping. But yeah, you're talking about the This Is Your Damnation, I think. That's it. And I just he did that, and the acoustic. I think the acoustic might be his son playing on that. Okay, but I'm like, I've never heard a track like it. It's just so original sounding. Well, man, Tony's a hell of a writer himself, man. Yeah. I mean, he's a multi-instrumentalist. Oh, wow. See, I mean, the guy, he plays violin. I mean, and you'll see that. I mean, there's some up-and-coming videos we've worked on that are not even released yet. And, you know, I've had to do some stuff, you know, here. We're all trying to do it from different countries, you know, and stuff. Yeah. So, and there's a good chance that, you know, we're going to be meeting up together and doing that live, which I pray for, because I think it's going to be wonderful if we do. And not only that, it'd be great to see my friend. Of course. I really care about Tony as an individual outside of the music. I mean, all the musicians that worked on that album really shine. But I mean, in just all the interviews I've read, and just like I see the credits and stuff, it seems like you were really like a big part of that album, as far as being like maybe his right hand man, his little brother, as you say, and that's definitely that's felt throughout there. Anything he has, he's really helped boost my name out there. Bless his heart. He's just a wonderful man, and I can take him a billion times short. I mean, and he's done nothing but kindness for me. Yeah. And I've never, ever been once disrespected by that guy. I mean, one thing leads to another. You know, you play on Tony's album, and then you got Vante and all this other stuff. I mean, it's just like a tree. You know, one branch goes to another. He's proud of what I'm doing. Of course. He's actually made statements to me like, dude, he goes, you're doing great, man. You're out there. And he's told people in his interviews, like, there's a lot more to come from Scott, you know. Oh, sure.
I'm in agreement with that, and I hope he's right about that. And Scott, I enjoyed talking to you once again. Before we wrap it up, I have a few more questions. Like, who were some of your all-time favorite guitar players growing up?
Oh, well, that's kind of an easy question. Of course, it started off back in the day.
Yeah.
You know, when I heard Van Halen the first time, I'm like, that's kind of a given.
Yeah.
And you know, then I heard Randy Rhoads, and I was like, wow, this guy's got competition now. And you know, and guys like him, and then tone-wise, now you start talking about tone. I like Dave Manichetti from Y&T.
Oh wow, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that guy, man. I mean, he's just one of the most underrated. And the guy was never trained. You know, he was never schooled. I mean, the guy plays from his heart, man.
And you gotta love what he does, not just because of his guitar. He's a great guitar player, great frontman, great singer. And I know I know he's dealing with cancer. Hope he beats that. And you know, as far as Eddie goes, I mean, I don't think there's any arguing about what a great guitar player. I mean, I'm assuming, like a lot of us, you were really affected by his death.
I was very affected by it. And there's one more guitar player I'd like to add to that, and a lot of people would find this odd. Yeah. And I love David Gilmour, man.
Oh.
I mean, and Billy Gibbons. I mean, those guys are just they're just amazing to me. David Gilmour can make a guitar talk to you with one note.
Yeah. And I was curious because I'm just asking this. If you're at all a Blackmore fan, and the reason I'm asking is I can't believe that Deep Purple's album Machine Head is turning 50 this year. And that's the album features Smoke on the Water. I was just curious if you were at all influenced by Blackmore or Deep Purple.
Oh, I was influenced by all that stuff, man. I mean, you know, Deep Purple was a great band. I mean, we all know that.
Ultimate jam band, you know.
Oh, yeah, man. They knew how to rock out, man, from the moment it started. Yeah. You know, and you know, it's like a band that gets out there and they're just willing to try anything to say, we're going to rock, but we're going to try it with a little bit of finesse and being different. Yeah. And they weren't afraid to go that route. And I thought that was great. And
so before we wrap this up, I wanted to ask you, because I also have this other show I do for the same site called On the Record. I think I mentioned this before, where we interview musicians about their favorite bands and their favorite albums that really influenced them. So, like you mentioned being, for example, a Van Halen fan, a Pantera fan. So maybe next time we talk, if you want to tell me, hey, let's talk about this Pantera album or this Van Halen album that really had an effect on me. Think about that, and I'll hit you up in a couple months, and we can do that.
Oh, dude, I'd love to. Yeah, it'd be great.
Okay, well, Scott, congratulations on the new single, hitting number 2. We love that, The Sunrise, and I'm going to check out the whole album when it drops for the new Vante album. And
one more thing before you go.
Yeah.
I'd like to mention Rev Jones.
Rev Jones, I'm glad you did. Yes.
Yeah, he is probably one of the best bass players I think I've ever worked with in my whole life.
Well, he's another one, multi-instrument guy. I had the pleasure of interviewing him like last year about his new solo album. I mean, he's a great singer, great bass player, as you said, great guitar player. He's a great, he can do it all.
I mean, he plays some guitar on Vante, too. So that guy's not just, you know, Rev was a big piece of our creativity and our ideas and where this album went. So all these guys, what's beautiful about it, I have one rule, my friend, is if you're not a good guy, we're not working together.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, some of my all-time favorite bands, they spent so many years like fighting and hating one another, and yet they made beautiful music. It's not really worth it, you know, at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's just too much. You know, it's just too much to deal with emotionally.
I mean, life's too short. You might as well enjoy yourself while you're creating this beautiful music, right?
I just wanted to share that with you about Rev, because I mean, I realized that. Well, we didn't say much about
I'm glad you did, because you know, I must apologize because I wrote it. No, I mean, because I wrote it down, and because he's another guy. When I meant to mention that when I said the whole band's just great musicians, and he's on that list.
Yes, sir. I mean, so there's a lot of wonderful players that I work with that are just great friends, and I am truly blessed.
Yeah, and one final thing, Scott. Like I said, let's keep in touch. And anytime you got these bands, or if you get involved in any other projects, let me know, and we're here for you.
Oh, man, likewise. Okay.
Okay, take care, my friend. Have a great day.
I appreciate your time, sir.
Bye-bye.
JROCK Riffs magazine.